Hello everybody. I just want to welcome you to this video. I'm going to try to have a little bit of fun with this instead of just putting out a text lecture, lesson, that type of thing. Our lesson today is going to be about investing, but most importantly about the stock market. I had a lot of questions and some things that some of you were asking about when it came to the stock market. So I wanted to kind of, instead of putting out new materials, I wanted to back up just a little bit, answer some of your questions that you may have had, and then try to explain a little bit more that'll help you in completing this project that you're working on, which is called stock market research. So first off, let's talk a little bit about investing. If you remember back from way back at the very beginning of this trimester, we talked about saving and investing. Those were a couple of terms that were on your quiz that we talked about. And investing, if you remember, that is just basically when you're putting money aside to grow in wealth later on in the future. So that's kind of how we're going to start with this with investing. Now, when we talk about investing, I really like to use the stock market for this. And then just coincidentally, the stock market has taken a big turn lately, so it's very relevant on what we're doing right now. But the reason I like to look at the stock market in the investing piece of this is because you can see really big gains and really big losses in a short amount of time. So that's really the reason that I choose and have chosen to do the stock market as the investing piece. Now, investing wise, if you want to look a little bit deeper into it, or when we come together again, we can talk a little bit more about it. But there are going to be things like the retirement funds that are really important to look at, especially like once you have a full-time job and things like that. Setting up a retirement, you could look at different bonds and things. I just recently cashed in on a couple of bonds that I had from when I graduated way back 25 years ago, and so you could look at different things like that in formats and in ways to invest. But the big one, like I said, is going to be the stock market, and that's really what I want to cover today. So there's a few key words that I want you to be aware of. One is going to be dividends, and dividends just basically is money that's paid out on money that was invested in the company. So basically, if you own a share in a company, if you own a share in the stock, and that company pays dividends, you could receive something that is called a dividend, which is kind of like a profit sharing. So that's really a good thing to look into and to get into if you choose to invest in the stock market. The next one is going to be IPO. It's initial public offerings. And basically this means that it's companies that sell stocks or shares of their companies for the very first time. And this kind of leads us into our first question that some of you had. Why stocks? Why are stocks sold? What does that mean and what does that look like? Well, the short answer for this question is that companies sell shares as a way to increase capital, or they do it to raise capital. Whatever that reason is that they need to raise or to gain capital, increase it, that's when they turn around and they turn it into something called IPO, and they put their stocks up to the public to be sold for the very first time, and that's why they do it. Now, if we were in the classroom right now, the thing that I would have you do is I would have the first person sitting in our seat in our tables. I would have them grab the dry erase marker, go up to the board, and I would ask all of you this simple question. Where do you go to buy things? Where do you go to sell things? Where do you go to trade? Some of you might write the marketplace on Facebook. Some of you might write Amazon. If we were answering this question today, where do we physically go into a location to make a purchase? We're going to be pretty limited. However, there are a handful of places that we can still go to make purchases. Now, after you get done doing that and writing that all over the board for me, and we create this big list, I explain that this is exactly how the stock market works. You go there to buy, you go there to sell, you go there to trade. It really does work out the exact same way. So a test question would possibly be like, what is the stock market? The stock market is where, and then the answer for that would be people go to the market to buy, sell, and trade. There are two things called, one is called primary market and one is called secondary markets. Primary market is just summed up as that's when you sell it for the first time. It goes into something called a primary market. The secondary market is where the stock market or where stocks go that are used stocks that have previously been owned by a customer. Okay, and so that's kind of the explanation on those. I'm going to try to keep this pretty short, so I'm going to go through some of this, and if you have other questions, that type of thing, please feel free to send me an email, ask me. I'll certainly go into greater detail about these, but I want to keep this pretty short to keep your attention. Now, the three largest stock markets at one point were the American Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, and the New York Stock Exchange. Now, New York Stock Exchange is the largest now. NASDAQ is more of a technology-based electronic companies, that type of thing, often trade on there. It was the first of the electronic trades as well, so that was something pretty interesting to know about. Some of the other questions, a few questions that people had asked me, stock prices, how are they set? They are set by supply and demand. If people are wanting it and the demand is there, then that's how those prices adjust and change. Stock markets, are they always open? Yeah, they're always open Monday through Friday. They're going to be closed on businesses, things like that. But they are generally open during the week. Can people buy them on the internet is something that some of you asked. Yes, absolutely, they can buy them on the internet. Not everybody can run out to New York and go to the New York Stock Exchange to make these purchases. So they could be purchased online. The next thing that I kind of want to move into is explaining just a little bit more about this thing called ticker symbol. A ticker symbol is just an abbreviation, and it's a shortened word, a shortened few initials or letters, that type of thing, explaining what a company is. So, for example, stock company, let's use Apple as an example for it. The ticker symbol would be AAPL. So if I were going to look and see how much the stock is right now, today, for Apple, all I would need to do is I could either go to marketwatch.com, which I've used a lot in the past, or I could just simply go into Google and I could put AAPL stock, and it shows up right away, $287.05. That's up a lot from over the last 3 weeks or so, which I'll get into that more in just a second. So that would be at $287.05 for one share. Okay, so if I were going to buy one share of Apple, that's what it would cost me. Now, if I owned Apple, if I would have bought a share of Apple just a few weeks ago when it was down to like $220 a share, and I wait until it gains and gets some momentum again and gets up to $325 or whatever, wherever it was at its highest point a couple months ago, and I sold it, I would turn a profit of almost $100 for that one share. So that's kind of how that investing works. Now, the next part of this, I do want to mention or talk just a little bit about these four things that are going to be in your stock market research in Canvas. NASDAQ, what I want you to do is I want you to choose one of these, just one of these. You don't have to choose all of them, just one. They're going to be NASDAQ, which is the biggest of technology-based companies traded. It's been around for quite a while. 1971, I believe, is the year that it started. So that would be one of them. American Stock Exchange, which is going to be the second one that I want you to look at, or the New York Stock Exchange, which is now the largest of the markets. And then I want you to take a look at Dow Jones. Okay, Dow Jones is something that you hear a lot right now, especially since March, especially mid-March. Okay, Dow Jones Industrial Average is what it's called, and so reason that this is important is because it really gives us a clear picture of what the economy looks like, according to economists, is what they think that it is. Now, February 19th, so a little bit before we started this trimester, the Dow Jones was measuring 29,348 points. Okay, so nearly 30,000 points is what the Dow Jones was listed at. Just a few short weeks ago, probably 3 weeks ago, Dow Jones dropped drastically down to 18,591 points. Okay, that's 11,000 points that it dropped in just a short amount of time, within a month, and especially over that week when the coronavirus had really started taking a toll and hitting in America. Dow Jones dropped a lot, and then it bounced back. And one of the things that was talked about a lot was stimulating the economy. As soon as the word got out about the stimulating the economy, people started reinvesting again. And so now up to today, it sits at 23,949 points, up about 500 or so points from the weekend, from Friday, or Thursday, last time that it was showing. Now, so it's gone up, quite a bit. What you need to understand too, another term is volatile. Volatile investments just basically mean that they can go up and down in a hurry. Okay, and so let's get into this project real quick. It's in Canvas. You are to create Google Slides. I want you to choose one of the company names. What I'm meaning by that is NASDAQ, Dow Jones, American Stock, New York Stock Exchange. Choose one of those to research. I want you to find 3 companies that trade inside of those. Okay, so 3 companies that are traded or listed inside of those. Do a little bit of research on those 3 companies, whether it's McDonald's or Apple or Dell or whoever it is that trades inside or is shown inside of those. I want you to do a little bit of research on those. And you can see in Canvas a little bit more detail on what that is. What companies that trade are inside of there that pay dividends. So you should be able to go to one of the websites that I've attached for you in Canvas. You should be able to see what some of those are listed, and then do a search on just finding out if they pay dividends. Positives and negatives in the stock market, that's the last piece of it, okay? So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Hopefully this was a little bit better than just getting some black and white text about what the stock market's all about. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. All right, everybody, stay safe, and hopefully I see you soon.